Is Leprechaun 1993 awesome or awful? We're going to discuss that today. Hey, welcome back everyone. This is Mike from fearshop.com. Welcome back to the video series. Today we're going to be talking about Leprechaun from 1993. Is it awesome or awful? We're definitely going to dig down into that. But before we get into that, make sure you like this video. So go smash that like button for me right now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're leaving your comments on the videos. Let me know what other types of videos you'd like to see or new entries into this awesome versus awful series. Which movies you want to see me talk about. Definitely want to be covering what you want to be watching. So the point of these awesome or awful videos is that we break down a film into the awesome parts and the awful parts. And today we're going to figure out if Leprechaun really is awesome or awful. At the end of the video, we'll have a verdict on whether the film is awesome or awful. So let's dig into that a little bit. Just keep in mind that awful does not necessarily mean that I won't go back and watch the films over and over again. It's just when you try to weigh pros versus cons, we just see which one has a little bit more. There's been a few that we've reviewed on here that I had to call awful because it just had more negative points than positive points. But they're still films that I'll watch every year or two. So just keep that in mind with that. So Leprechaun definitely has some good aspects and it has some really bad aspects as well. So I go back and forth all the time on this film. So I wanted to break down the awesome versus awful elements for this one. Basically, the film opens with the leprechaun being trapped in a crate with a 4-leaf clover on top. But unfortunately, Dan O'Grady, the Irishman who trapped him there, has a stroke and he never gets to do anything with his stolen gold. 10 years later, JD has bought the old O'Grady place and is moving in there with his daughter, Tori, who's played by the beautiful Jennifer Aniston in her debut movie role. The movie never really tells us why the family moved to North Dakota, which is not the ideal location for a materialistic girl like Tori is. One thing to note is, Aniston was the first of the Friends cast before the show even aired to fulfill their destiny to only appear in bad movies. So she just got an early jump on that. Director Mark Jones made a sincere attempt to make a film that was both scary and funny. Some parts worked, others did not. And, it needs to be mentioned, the film spawned many sequels. What I do not understand is how it did so. Reviews were negative. Those reviews focused on horrible acting, horrible directing, not very funny, humorous parts, yet many sequels were released. So I'll definitely give it credit for that, not all those bad elements, but that it actually did spawn sequels, because there's a lot of films that people hope become series and they never do. And, the Leprechaun, he's been to space, he's been to the hood, so he's been all over the place. Alright, let's look at the awesome elements to Leprechaun. Goes without saying, Jennifer Aniston, even back then, definitely easy on the eyes. I'm going to put that one up there as one of the awesome elements of the film. Another awesome element, the Leprechaun has magical powers, sometimes, and he can teleport and disguise his voice. But when it's more convenient for the movie, those abilities are forgotten. I guess that's kind of awesome and awful in a few ways, but it is awesome about having all those powers. Another awesome element concerning the Leprechaun is Warwick Davis in his portrayal of the Leprechaun. Always give credit where it's due there. And again, another awesome element. The film spawned many sequels. Like I said, he went to the hood, he went to space. While those sound silly, at least the hood was a watchable film. The space was rough. It was definitely rough. Leprechaun in the Hood, I've seen a bunch of times. I actually enjoyed that one a little bit. I don't know why. That's all I have for awesome, unfortunately. So let's jump into some of the awful elements. One that I'm not sure is awful or awesome, actually, but why does the Leprechaun not have an Irish accent? Another part. The parts that try to be scary are not scary. The parts that try to be funny are not funny. Another awful item is the first person to defy the Leprechaun zero tolerance policy for gold theft is an Irish man with an Irish accent, but the Leprechaun doesn't have that same accent. Really? Another. The house is an absolute mess inside and out, but JD insists on moving in right away, and he feels that painting the exterior of the house is just what it needs, so he hires 3 people to paint the outside of the house. When you look back at this, it's just a lot of bad writing. We wanted to have this group of people, and you wanted to have, different types of characters in there. But to look at a house, it's an absolute mess, and just be like, oh, well, we need people, so let's just make them painters, and we'll have them outside. All right, another element. Ozzy, a big oaf, finds the leprechaun first and tries to convince the rest of the crew that there's a leprechaun in the basement, but nobody believes him. I get that part. But then a rainbow appears with no rain in sight and no one's fazed. After that, Ozzy talks Alex into finding the end of the rainbow to find the leprechaun's goal. Now, typically, the end of the rainbow is not something I've ever been able to find. Not that I was really looking, to be honest. But these two have no trouble at all. And at the end of the rainbow, there's a pickup truck with a sack of gold in it. At this point, the cat's out of the bag. But Alex still refuses to leave him leprechauns. What? How's that happen? I get it's an unbelievable kind of thing. But, alright. Anyway, another awful element. The problem with having a leprechaun for a villain is leprechauns are small. It's one of their most well-known characteristics. If you got into a fight with one, you should be able to take him out rather easily. It's the same reason I always had trouble with the Child's Play movies. Something as light as a doll wouldn't have the leverage to inflict any serious damage on anyone, and it would be easy to outrun him or even incapacitate him. Basically, if you get killed by a leprechaun or a doll, you get what you deserve. It's my position, I'm sticking to it. Alright, so now we've listed out some awesome elements. We've listed out some awful elements. The verdict on this movie, the one side of the puzzle that has more pieces to it, is awful. Does that mean I'll never watch this film again? No, not really. Yeah, I'll watch it every once in a while. I will admit, not a huge fan of the Leprechaun series. They're definitely all over the place. Some better than the others. They're way too cheesy for me, and just that whole thing of like, if I got a leprechaun coming up to me, he's getting a swift kick in the head, and that leprechaun's not a problem anymore. Again, it's my position at least. So, in the comments below, tell me your favorite movie in the Leprechaun series. So that wraps this video up. I want to hear from you. Post your thoughts on this video. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you subscribe. But most of all, make sure you keep it hard.